To go. It's official. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I'm Debora Wayne, founder of the International Chronic Pain Institute. This with me is the one and only Dr. Sharon Melnick. And she is not only one of my closest friends, she's just an amazing leader in the world of stress and resilience and confidence and helping you take your power back. And what do you do when you're pissed off and you want to be your best self, but instead you really want to kill somebody? This is the woman that you go to when you're ready to flip out and you need somebody to ground you. And she's been an amazing friend of mine for years. And I invited her here today so we can have a very juicy conversation, because what's happening in the world, at least it's happening in my world and all my clients, people are stuck at home longer than they're used to. They are with people 24/7 in some cases. The spouse that usually goes to work is in the room. The kids, they're home forever. Okay, like there's no space, no time out, there's nowhere to run. And people are flipping out, and maybe it's you. I got some incredible questions from all of you. I have a list of questions here from just all. Sharon, you're going to love this. I mean,
bring it on. Yeah.
Questions from everybody. And so we're going to just have a blast, and we're going to take hands in Zoom. You can raise your hand and talk to us later on. And by the way, if you're in, first of all, hi, we're on Facebook and Zoom at the same time, and I will be checking Facebook a little while later for questions. My assistant Colin is in there, so if you see him and you're having tech issues, hopefully he can find you and help you. And thank you, Colin, for being there. And those of you on Zoom, if you look down at the bottom of your screen, there's a thing that says Q&A. And if you click on that, I want you to feel free at any time to type your questions into the Q&A, or if you can't find that, just type them into the chat. Now remember, today's topic is, what do we do if we're angry, resentful, bitter, restless, irritable, discontented, and bored out of our friggin' minds? That's today's question. So do your best to keep the question according to the theme, and you can type it in the chat or type it in the Q&A below, and we'll have a Q&A portion in a little bit later. So again, thank you for being here. And let me just say that if you don't know this woman here, she's really amazing. And I thank you for being here, Sharon, and sharing your wisdom with us. It's really good to have you.
Absolutely. It's an honor. You're my dear friend, my healer, my muse, my colleague in crime, and glad to be back talking with your tribe, who you've brought so much healing to. Thank you.
So welcome. Sharon, just in case you don't know it, I mean, this woman, she's a world-renowned speaker. She has spoken all over the world, including at the White House, the UN. She's written several books. My favorite is Success Under Stress. And stick around, because later in the call, Sharon has a couple really amazing free gifts for you that are going to help you in your life, whether you are in relationships, whether you're working, whether you're at home, a stay-at-home mom, whatever it is. Sharon's really, her expertise is helping women just take their power back. And you know me, those of you, most of you here today have been in my programs or worked with me in some capacity. And you know I'm always talking about this. Like, it's all about being in your power, because when you're not in your power, what happens? You end up with things coming out sideways, and it ain't pretty. What happens? That's when we blow up. That's when we lose our, I mean, and believe me, you guys have heard my story. Like, I do it. I've done it. I did it for years. I was a cabinet slammer. So I would never own my anger. People would say to me, my ex-husband would say, are you upset with me about something? Are you angry? I'm like, I'm not angry. I'm not angry. And I'd slam the cupboards and I'd stomp around. And I literally, for years, I had no clue that I was angry. I didn't even know. I thought he should be doing things differently. I thought if he were different, I would feel different. So, I learned a lot, and we're going to talk about this stuff today. First, I have some questions for Sharon that I just want to bring out because this really is your area of expertise. I mean, you help women, particularly women in the corporate world, right? Who they can't just lose their cool in the middle of a business setting, in a board meeting, in a
Yeah.
high executive position. They can't just all of a sudden go, I'm pissed off and stomp out.
No.
Right?
You most certainly cannot. Yeah, that's there's plenty of gender bias, and emotionality bias is one of them, actually, where men are passionate and women are emotional. Yeah, but it's not good for anyone, man or woman, to be stomping out of a meeting.
But men are passionate and women are crazy or irrational or losing it, right? Hysterical, because emotions are just so not respected compared to thinking and logic and being, So, and I'm not saying we should just blow up everywhere, but, there's a time and a place to express those feelings in appropriate ways. And I was thinking about all this call this morning, and I thought, something I've never asked you. Out of all the topics and things in the world that you could have focused your career on, how did you end up focusing on confidence and women and stress and resilient? Like, where did that even come from? Why that? Because you've been focused on that for years, and it's such a specialty. And I'm like, why did she choose that? I don't think I've ever asked you that before.
Well, the longest relationship we'll ever have is the one with ourselves, right? And when you think about stress management, it's not really about stress management, it's about self-management, right? And, and it's the old adage, what do they say about therapists? A therapist is someone who needs therapy 8 hours a day or something like that, or whatever. And, so, this is something, I can be a very emotional person. And again, just like you're saying, not that, I think that this is important actually as a message in our society. I have a mentor, Regina Thomaschauer, and one of my favorite sayings of hers is, that a woman, a man, a human being wants to play all 88 keys of their piano, of their emotional piano, right? Because, so the way that I think about it is that, that there is some, we can talk about a range of emotions and situations, just like, bring it on. But when we're thinking about anger, there's some anger that is a reaction that has to do with yourself. There's something about yourself that is hurt, that needs protecting. So we can go into all that. I got lots to say. Yeah. So there's some anger that's about the self. Yeah. And there's some anger that is about service. Yeah. Right? Where you feel that there's been some injustice, or it's more like your values have been, violated. So there's sort of personal anger, there's impersonal anger, and the personal anger will fry you, will burn you up, can cause disease processes, can be internalized, cause depression. Yeah. The kind of that impersonal, the anger that's can be in service, can fuel you. So it could either fry you or it could fuel you. And so it will be helpful for us to be able to, have some of these kind of nuances. And, where this came from for me is that, I started off my career, I did 10 years of research at Harvard Medical School. And actually the research that I did was about intergenerational issues. So, kind of growing up.
Coming in. So
yeah, we can totally talk about that. And so it was about, kind of what do you bring with you from your own experiences of childhood into your parenting in the next generation? And then how do you repeat those mistakes of your parents, or don't you? Right. So, I sort of grew up a lot thinking about, like, where do these patterns come from? So we're bringing them into the workplace, into our relationships. And that's why it's really all about, like, kind of maximizing how you deal with yourself so you can bring your best self into all these situations.
So fascinating, isn't it? And I talk about this a lot in my programs as well. Like, if you don't go back and examine where you came from and where the beliefs and the emotional patterns formed, you're going to unconsciously keep perpetuating something. And then you wake up 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years later, just in excruciating pain of some kind, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, relationship pain, career pain, with these patterns. And you go, why does this keep happening to me? I'm hurting and it's not happening to everybody. What's wrong with me? And
Right.
that's when
No, it is happening to everybody, but anyway, right.
it is. I think it's just them. But
Right.
that's why I always say, and I know you agree because we've talked about this so many times, that pain is a wake-up call and it's your friend. It's not something to avoid or deny or suppress. It's actually there to say, hey, look at me. It's time for you to clear this so you can evolve and grow and become the best person that you were designed to be. Yeah. So, but you didn't answer my question there, friend. Why did you pick this topic, this subject, even at Harvard during your 10 years of research? What drew you to that? Like, what was the pull there? Because you could have picked anything in the umbrella of psychology. Why this?
Yeah, well, so I got into this interest in these intergenerational patterns, right? Because I was trying to understand myself, of course,
Oh, okay.
right? And I was, trying to understand, like, so I didn't always feel seen, right? And so it became my mission, really, in the world to sort of ensure that, like, no child was going to grow up, feeling unseen at important moments. And it's taken a lifetime to be able for me to have empathy for myself. And I hope, one of the things that I think is really an opportunity in this current time is that you see leaders are required really to be more empathic to their people. And of course, one of the trends that we're seeing here is that, both men and women can be empathic leaders. But for many women, this is kind of a natural strength that, we've been doing this as leaders, but now these strengths are being valued, right? And I think it's going to be, the new leadership model going forward are going to be, whether you're a man or a woman, you're going to, these kind of so-called feminine kind of leadership traits of collaboration, less hierarchy, more collaboration, the ability to kind of like get things done on your team while checking in with your people. These are prioritized now. And so this is why it's so important for you to be talking about this, because we're all going to be required to, I'm anxious about going forward into a future, you know what I mean, where people are going to be getting sick. And so whether it's, this stress is going to be going on for, let's say, at least a year, if not more, whether it's how to deal with your fears or not snapping at people and dealing with your own anger and resentment. People are dealing with grief. Again, there's kind of all 88 keys of our piano. And for us to be talking about how you can, again, be self-managed, I think is a core competency of the future. And the people in our communities who know how to do this will be the role models and will be the ones leading families, leading communities, leading companies.
One of the things I've been saying to everyone lately that a lot of people don't realize, they don't think of themselves as a leader, but if you're a stay-at-home mom, you're a leader. There are people watching you, your family, you're leading. If you are a friend to anyone, you're a leader. If you work amongst others, you don't have to be the president or the CEO of the corporation to be a leader. And I think that that's really important to recognize that, people are watching you, and our actions they do speak louder than words. And it's not about perfectionitis either. Look, you just heard from Dr. Sharon Melnick, okay? The great Dr. Melnick specializes in this topic, and she's worried, anxious, got, concerns about our future as well. I'm the same. I mean, that I've been sharing with you that it's about being real. And one of the greatest reasons that people get resentful and feel a lot of anger is they're pretending. They're pretending that they don't feel a certain feeling. and they try to stop it or ignore it or deny it or suppress it. And what happens is it will eventually, because feelings are energy, everything's energy. You know that I harp on this constantly. And emotions are supposed to be energy in motion. And if they're not allowed to move, if they're shoved down in there, they're going to explode sideways at some point. And that's actually what happened to me years ago, and why I got so sick and in so much pain, because I wouldn't have known a feeling if it hit me in the head. I just had no clue. I just was in my head all the time. And if you said you'll laugh, everybody, but when I started my recovery process, my therapist showed me a sheet of paper with smiley faces on it and said, point to the one that represents the most how you feel, because I couldn't articulate how I felt. So, this is a critical thing in our mature development, right? Or immature. And Sharon, I want to also ask you, you talk a lot about being our best selves, and that may look different for different people. When you elaborate on that a little bit and give us some thoughts on that. Like, what does that mean? How do we be our best selves? Because I know in my case, there have been many times where I was tired, I was hungry, I was exhausted, whatever. And I said something or acted in a way that I wasn't really proud of afterwards. And then I felt guilty and ashamed and then I tried to be overly nice, and none of that works. So will you talk about that?
I get hangry. I know it well.
Hangry.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, here's what I would say about that is that I think when we're talking about our best self, what we're really meaning is to be able to be intentional, right? That we all have kind of an idea of who we want to show up as. And I think the way that you get there is to think about, like, what is the outcome that you want? So whether it's the outcome of what you want sort of, in your household, or what you want in terms of your career, or what you want in terms of your business, or what you want in terms of your relationship. Like, we all have it's great to be really detailed and like have a really clear articulated idea about, but we all have like kind of a sense of at least to begin with what we want. And then you want to ask yourself, and who do I need to show up as in order to make that happen? Or at least today, you know what I mean? Start moving things in that direction. And it actually is really worthwhile to take the time to really define that. It's kind of, you can find this, I call this your horizon point. It's just kind of like a visual cue. It's an anchor. And it's kind of like the sweet spot at the intersection of kind of who you want to be and what the situation needs of you. So if you're a leader on a team, like, what are the results you want for the team? And so it's like, who do you want to show up as? What are your strengths? And then kind of, what does the team need from you, right? And it's the same thing, let's say in your household or in your relationship. And you were so, eloquent about the way that you were talking about, we're leaders in a lot of parts of our lives. And, as a leader, you create the weather on your team.
I love that.
Create the weather on your team, right? You can create the weather in your household, in every relationship. And what you bring, the 50% that you can control, we'll talk about that in a minute, you know what I mean? In any situation, like, can, just like butterflies' wings, you know what I mean? Like, around the world can, create a kind of an impact, and which creates a kind of a domino effect. So I would say, really define who you want to show up as. And then all of what we're going to be talking about today is about being less reactive and more intentional. And I think it helps people to feel more in control, be really clear, about how they need to show up. And then, you're having more of the experience that you want, which begets more of the experience of what you want.
Love that. Oh, somebody wrote in one of the questions, and they said that, how do I stay calm when people, they're obviously at home quarantined with others? And they said, but how do I stay calm and express myself in a proper way when they're not doing it right, or they're not doing what they should do? Now, I have some thoughts on this, because whenever I hear the should word, I get a red flag, because really that to me indicates that I have an expectation of someone and they're not living up to my expectations, and that in my mind, they've signed an agreement, but the other person often doesn't know they've signed that agreement. They've never even read the darn thing. So really the shoulding needs to be elevated to a could. They could do it differently. They could do it the way I want, but have I asked? Have I, or am I just like I used to do, just walking around snarling at them, hoping they read my mind, right? So talk about that. Like, what do you do when you're living with people? Could be your kids, your spouse, roommates. You're living with them, or you're in an office with others, or even working virtually. It doesn't matter. You don't need to be in the same physical environment, but they're not doing what you think they should be doing. They're not living up to your expectations. What's the proper way to deal with this, and so that I don't end up blowing?
Okay, got it. Now, do you want me to give you the short answer, or would you be okay if we took a step back and kind of talked about like the core idea that's really helpful to remember in that moment? Is it okay if we kind of take the long way there?
Yeah, do.
Okay, very good. Because, you and I have talked about this before. And, so you're talking about stressful situations of, of varying degrees. And so, we only feel stress when there's aspects of the situation that feel out of our control. In fact, it is the out of controlness, if you will, that activates that stress reaction or an emotional reaction.
Yeah.
So what you want to do in any situation that feels uncomfortable or fiery, or just, whether you're pissed off, it's just not going the way that you want, or it's a challenge for you. What you want to do is you immediately want to sort the situation out into the aspects of the situation that you can control. And I call this your 50%. Now, actually, when we were talking here, really, really quickly, I actually just took the back cover of my book, Success Under Stress, and I just made a little.
Let me interject. So everybody, you want to stay on the call, please, because at the end, Sharon's going to give away
parts of the book and some tools from the book.
Parts of the book, tools from the book, and I'm going to do a meditation, and there's a lot happening later on, so stick with us. All right.
Fantastic. So I don't know if you could see this, but it's just a very quick and dirty. It's just a circle with a line through it. And the point is that you want to sort out any situation that's stressful for you into the aspects of the situation that you can control. I call this your 50%. Yeah. And that's above the line. And then what you can't control, the other 50%, if you will.
Why my 50%? Like, what if I think it should be all their responsibility? It has nothing to do with me, Sharon. This is what they agreed to. They're not doing it. It's not why do I have to be responsible?
Yes, it is such a good question. I keep my room clean. They don't. Is their fault. Right. I totally get it. Exactly. I totally get it. But here's the thing. But it's just like you and I are kind of engaging here now, right? So it's like, I'm bringing what I'm bringing. That's like half of what's going on between us, and you're bringing that's half of what's going on between us, right? So it may feel like you have very little control, like the other person is the one doing things that you don't want, but in every situation, there's sort of like what you bring to it. That's what I'm calling your 50%. And there's what the other person, or, for what's below the line, the other 50%, it could be politics or a virus or the weather or decisions that are made that whatever it is. So, but the point is that anytime that you focus your attention on things that are below the line, right? Your other 50%, things that you can't control, you leak your power.
Exactly. And
right?
People constantly in my programs and groups, and some of you wrote this question in as well. Why do I feel so drained by other people? Because you're leaking your power. You're probably exhausted trying to control the big C word. It's not just Corona, it's control. And it's going to exhaust you very rapidly.
Yeah. So that's exactly the point. And literally it will activate a stress reaction because it makes you feel out of control, just like we were saying, right? Yeah. So what you want to do really is you always want to focus on kind of what's above that line, like what's within your 50%. And you really want to maximize that.
What does that mean? How do you maximize?
Yeah, there's actually so many. So we're going to take this example here, and I want to show you all the things that are in your control. Okay. And, but before we do that, I want to kind of leave you all with like a mantra. Like I call this the 50% rule. And it's like, you don't have to remember a million things when you're feeling all stressed like that. You just have to remember that one thing, the 50% rule, which is be impeccable for your 50%, right? Just put your time and energy and attention into being effective at what you can control before you ever allow yourself to leak your power or blame or feel all frustrated, because you're going to see all the things that we're going to talk about in terms of these emotions. They're all about controlling that other 50%. So
let me just ask real quick. So if you're listening to this, type yes in the chat box if you recognize that maybe you've been trying to control somebody, and that could be part of the problem of why you feel angry or resentful, or like you're tired, or they're just not too. All right, thanks Daisy, Allison. We got some Nancy's like yes. All right, okay, great. Yeah, I mean, absolutely yes, right? And if you're on Facebook, type away. I mean, owning it is really the key, because when you own it and recognize, there's no shame in it. Just once you own it and you see what you're doing, you can actually do something about it. But if you're like, oh, I don't do that, I don't do that, you'll never be able to change anything. It's just,
yeah. And here's the thing is that I'm not saying like give up control, because like who wants to do that? Okay. What I'm saying is that actually there's 3 things that you can control, that you can always control, even when it seems like there's nothing that I can control in this situation. Mm-hmm. And those 3 things you can control. You can control your own physiology. You can control your own psychology, and you can control your own problem solving and sort of, or your performance, or kind of what you say in your own persuasion in the situation. So like, let's go through each of these, because let's go over kind of tools that you can use in the moment.
Okay, but hang on, because there's some comments coming in that, it's not about, yes, you still do need to get balanced and voice yourself, Dr. Amara. It's not about becoming a doormat. Sharon's not saying, I'm not saying, give up control, let everybody do what they want to do. That, no, we're not saying swing the pendulum from one extreme to the other. But if you hear what she's saying, there are certain things I can control. And I'm always in charge of my attitude. I'm always able to be in charge of me. But what I find most people do is they have their nose in other people's business, and they think it's their business, and they're trying to manage all that. And then people react to that. Who wouldn't? Wouldn't you? If someone was trying to control you, don't you think you'd have a reaction? I know I would. I don't like people telling me what to do. Never have, still don't. So Sharon, go a little further with this.
Okay, so like, let's go through, this typical scenario, right, where someone's stepping on your last raw nerve, right? And let's like take an example of how you can control your own physiology, your own psychology, and your own problem solving. Mm-hmm. Okay, so your own physiology, just for example. So what happens when somebody is totally driving you nuts and you're in close quarters? Yeah. What happens is that you get really like heated, and you start to say things like, my blood is boiling, or right? Like there's something like that. Yeah. And so like one thing, like, here's a tool from my book, Success Under Stress. One thing that you can do is to cool down your physiology with cooling breath. Can we try this now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Fantastic. So let's all try cooling breath now. This is a breath that kind of cools down your physiology. So this is a reverse breath. You're going to open your mouth ever so slightly, and you're going to breathe in as if you are sipping through a straw. And then out through your nose, just a regular, long, slow, deep breath. And just try it along with me now as I'm talking. So again, breathe in as if you're creating a wind tunnel over the top of your tongue. And if you can roll your tongue, those of you who are tongue curler, oh, there you go. We're blessed in the house with a tongue curler. I love it. And I'm not genetically blessed like that. So even better if you can do that. And then out through your nose. So who's feeling a cooling, drying sensation over the top of your tongue? Okay, very good. And if that's the case, then it's working. This is exactly, it's working for you. And my acupuncture friends tell me that what we're doing there is we're detoxifying our liver. It's very healthy. That's where negative emotions can build up. And also what it's doing is it's taking you out of like that hijack moment, right? in your brain, and it's helping you again to be more intentional. What's the outcome I want in this situation, and who do I need to show up as so I can start? So cooling breath is actually like the poster child for be impeccable for your 50%. Because usually what do we do in that situation? It's like, be different, calm down, or whatever, like we're telling to the other person. We're crossing over that line below the 50% line. But so it's like, calm yourself down. And when you do that, shift the energy so that other people, right, can start being more receptive. It's just an example. It's like, don't try to calm yourself down, and you'll be better able to find a solution. So it's just an example. There's so many things that you can do. And there's constructive things. It's just that maybe some of them aren't sanctioned by our society, like we were talking about before. But I would say, like, what's your favorite, like, dance jam music? Rage at the Machine, you know what I mean? And like, let's do a dance break with everyone in the house and like get it out, you know what I mean? Vigorously exercise. For me, it's like, I make that punching bag bleed, you know what I mean? Like when I'm angry, whatever it takes. But like everyone's got to find their own way. It's like, that's what it looks like in your physiology to be impeccable for your 50%.
So there are, the physical body, your body's telling the story of your life. And we hold a lot of things in and then feel it physically, and the body's giving us feedback. And then we judge it as, I don't want that. And so one of the first things that will guarantee that you are not going to release emotions like anger, resentment, boredom, restlessness, irritability, is if you judge it as bad, beat yourself up over it, or pretend it's not there. And so I want to stress that feelings, I love what you said about the keys on the, I always talk about the crayon box, and that there are all kinds of colors in the crayon box, and all the colors are beautiful. I mean, imagine a world if there was only one color. How boring and flat would that be? And all the emotions and the feelings we have, they're all the colors. It's a rich, beautiful work of art. So, but the key is that you have to learn to feel the feeling. It's just a feeling. And so I have a little rant chant that I share with people, which is, if you want to heal, you must learn to feel. And when you're calm, when you're doing things like calming breath or exercising, you will have a deeper experience with yourself, where you may even become aware of what's really underneath. I want to talk about this in a minute. What's underneath the anger, which is often hurt, deep hurt and sadness, or shame or guilt. There's something deeper even that you may not be aware of right away. But one of the things I'd like to share with everybody right now, if you're in a safe place, is to just sit for a moment and close your eyes. And I'd like you to think about what brought you to the call today. Is there someone or something in your life where you're experiencing anger, resentment, frustration, where you feel irritated, cranky, like you want them to change? And just with your eyes closed, feel where in your body you even notice that feeling is talking to you. And just begin to notice that. And feel it. Let it come up. Let the feeling, it's just a feeling. It's just energy. Notice that feeling and let it come up. And sit there with it for a moment here. Just for a moment. We're just going to do a brief moment of this. And watch what happens when you feel and allow it to be there without any label of good, bad, right, wrong. You ask it to come up. I would bet, in fact, type in the chat for me if you notice already in that short, just a few seconds, if you notice a bit of relief, something leaving, shifting, moving, changing. Anybody feeling it? Yes, yes, the yeses are coming in. Calm, yes, yes. Exactly. So fighting your emotions is not going to work. Not going to work. And Sharon, I'm wondering, there were quite a few questions. In fact, I want to look over here. There were a few that I really wanted to.
Yes, let's get to the question, but I also want to come back to our friend who's reacting at home and talk about what's going on in your psychology and what you can do to problem solve. But we could also weave it into other questions, but I don't want to leave our friend hanging.
No, I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me. Keep us on track here and go.
Okay, because this is where it so dovetails, you know, I think the way that we think about this and is, so what can you do in your psychology, right? So you were just talking about even identifying, you know, the emotions that you do have, putting words to them, all of that, you know, all that you teach us has been so valuable for me and many others. And, you know, it can really help to understand what your reaction is, right? Because the way that I think about a reaction, like a reaction is because we have kind of hurts or feelings, just like you're saying, but that we might have been harboring for years, or they might be fresh, what's going on in these times. And they're like kindling, right? Yeah. And then when somebody does something that annoys you, you know, in your living room or something like that, it's like striking a match to that kindling. And then you feel the feelings, right? And it's a reaction is a reactivation of that kindling, right? And so the more that you can kind of, you know yourself and kind of take care of that kindling, I think I'm getting a kind of emotion regulation strategy right now, as a matter of fact.
Exactly, yeah.
This actually as an emotion regulation strategy.
They're the best. They are. They're the best. They see,
highly recommended.
Love. They just aren't worried about like somebody didn't do the dishes right. You know? They don't care if you leave your clothes on the floor.
So definitely need to include this in our repertoire. But so as I was saying is, you know, when you react, it's a reactivation of that kindling that you have inside, right? Yeah. And what's, you know, important about that is that I want us to think about is that, you know, when we get angry, oftentimes the reason for that is because we are kind of reactivating some sort of painful experience or emotion of, you know, being hurt or something that we are criticizing ourselves for or something like that. And the other person is acting in a way that isn't allowing us to avoid that anymore, right? Like we're getting in touch with it. And so we're sort of like angry at them for being limited in the way that they're limited, such that we have to be in touch with our own discomfort. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And so, you know, so right there, it sort of leads us, you know, to a strategy of sort of like, you know, you want to kind of accept others' level of evolution and work on your own, you know, sort of like, and then, you know, like, I'll just give you an example of this actually. Like, you know, I'm coaching a woman leader who's like a medical director of an organization, and her boss is like taking credit for her work, and she's like working so hard and like just like really doing a good job. And you know, and if you can understand, anyone, you know, would feel upset about this situation. Right. And you know, so we're going to talk about problem solving, you know, what she could do about it. But in the meantime, it really, you know, she was so upset, really pit in the stomach, you know, tears in her eyes. And why is that? Because she had that kindling of feeling unworthy, right? And that questioning whether she belonged in that role and all of that. And so her boss's limitations and need to prove herself, you know what I mean, right, was, you know, then putting my client in the situation to have to kind of face this in herself, right? So that, you know, that was kind of a trigger. And really, actually, you know, in my research at Harvard Medical School, I developed this kind of exercise. I call it the magic bullet. And essentially what we do is we trace that voice to, there's a part, right, of her that got activated. We're all made up of these multiple parts. You know, we kind of traced it to its origin. We, you know, sort of talked to that part, so to speak. And you know, she was really, it's very graceful, just able to kind of heal it at the root cause and just doesn't feel intensely unworthy in that way. So, you know, she doesn't have that kindling is, you know, there's not too many logs there. You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm gonna put her down. Thank you, Coco. Anymore. And so I think that the more that you can have that kind of, you know, self-awareness, what really is it? And then work on being able to grow your own confidence, right? So that you're not looking to others to have to give it to you in the moment. That can be helpful.
One of the things that comes up a lot in particularly in my pain-free living program, and there were quite a few questions that came in today about this, is that they're triggered by their family members, or they don't know what to do about it, and they've got usually a rather justifiable angry story about it. And one person in particular said, you know I should forgive them, or I should be kinder and more compassionate for people who are suffering, but I don't feel that way because I was so abused. And so what I want to talk about this, because it's tough. I'm not, and we're not, it's important to make it clear, we're not condoning bad behavior and abuse. But what will happen is that if you were, for example, I work with a lot of people who have been horrifically sexually abused and emotionally abused early in life, later in life. It doesn't matter when it happens, it's never fun or good. But when it happens, and 30 years later, you're still protecting against it, or getting triggered all the time and finding it's affecting every area of your life, it means it wasn't healed at the root. And that does not mean you have to, because look, a lot of people from the past are never going to come back and say, I'm sorry. They're not going to do that. And we have to find a way to go inside and recognize, tell me if you recognize this too, Sharon, I find a lot of people, they bought into the story that was given to them, and they actually accepted there's something wrong with me, or I would not have been treated that way. They feel less about themselves. They often, a part of them has a doubt that maybe they deserved it or they did something wrong, and that's why it happened. And then oftentimes my clients will say, well, I tried so hard to be better, or they compensate in some way to make up for what this apparent lack. But what the truth is that abuse is never okay. I don't care how I don't care how severe the mistake you made. It doesn't deserve someone putting their fist through your face or breaking furniture on your head. That's just not okay. But until we learn to really accept ourselves, and like you said, learn from the past, take the responsibility, and not let a 6-year-old run a 50-year-old woman's life. You don't let the 6-year-old run your adult life, but you have to go inside and help that 6-year-old heal and acknowledge that she's
something about that, actually. And I think that's absolutely right. And for those of you who have had those kind of very hurtful and abusive experiences, let me say a few things about why you might have developed that voice of criticizing yourself. And this is not just for the people who have had severe experiences of abuse, because this is for all of us. All of us have that kind of negative voice in some way, in our lives. And so here's the thing, is that, when you're going through experiences like that, you have to try to make sense of, why is this happening, right? Why is this abnormal kind of experience happening to a normal person like me? And so what we do is that we tend to kind of make the person who is abusive right, and that they're doing it for some reason. It must be something about me. Now, the thing is that here's what I really want you to really, really get, is that we do this for a reason. And what is that reason? Because it enables you to survive in a couple of ways. One is that enables you to preserve hope, because especially if you were younger, if you truly believe that that figure, that parent or whoever was important to you, truly was not going to be there for you to take care of your basic needs, you literally could not wake up in the morning and sort of like go on and have any hope. Because there are some people who they're like, I am not safe. I am not protected. I get it. And I don't know how I'm going to last 10 years, you know, until I can be on my own or whatever. And then you're totally hopeless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's almost like more adaptive, you know what I mean? To sort of say like, okay, it's something about me. So this way I can try to be better. It gives you a semblance of control. It tells you, if only I could be a good girl, or if only I can, you know, whatever your kind of pattern, or keep my mouth shut, or what, you know, whatever the pattern is, then maybe I can sort of, you know, get out of here alive, you know, kind of thing. And so it's actually very adaptive to take on that voice and to think that it's something about you. It's adaptive for the moment, right?
For the moment, when you're in the actual danger, but 40 years later, when there's no danger and it's
right.
affecting every area of your life, this is where it's a problem.
But it's become the way that you've explained situations. So when you were talking about how important it is, like for my client, you know, one of the things that was helpful to her was for her to kind of be able to tell alternative stories about what was going on with the boss, and for her to really see that this wasn't, you know, because of her lack of contribution. It was because of her boss was insecure about her own, you know, contribution and was, you know, trying to steal credit or whatever. There's still things she has to do about it. And that anger, that protective mechanism, it can, what the thing is that a lot of times when it's kind of automatic and the firefighter comes out to try to like defend you, it's not so constructive and you end up snapping. And then you, just like you said, then the guilt and then the like repair and all of that. But if you can turn that anger, you know, a lot of people turn difficult situations or anger into a survivor's mission where they go out and help, you know, and try to prevent other people from experiencing what they did. So there's definitely ways of, or even, you know, like the person for whom was getting, you know, their nerves, you know, getting on their nerves in their house, you know, getting into the problem solving part of what you could do. Like you could, you know, you could have a family meeting and we could talk about like, what would an ideal day look like in our household? Or to team leaders, do this. You know what I mean? What would an ideal day look like? What do you want our ideal culture to look like? Let's get everybody's buy-in. Everybody has a voice. Everybody feels like, yes, we all agree this is what we want. And then let's start to problem solve toward that. You know, who needs, you know, privacy at what times of the day? What can the others of us do? You know, what would be more fun?
This is so important because I think what I'm hearing from my crowd is that there's an issue with boundary setting and they're not asking for what they need. They're just assuming I have to be here with everyone in the same space and be happy and smiling, when you may actually need quiet time, alone time. I don't care if you have to go into a closet. You may need to just literally physically
walk around the block,
having a time out,
head out the window. Yeah.
Obligate yourself to be around everyone 24/7. It's very difficult for anyone to do that, particularly now more than ever. So yeah.
Definitely. You need to renew in yourself. Yeah. The oxygen mask.
Yeah. A few of you wrote in, and I hear this a lot too, about, well, could my emotions have anything to do with my physical pain? And so I want to just touch on that briefly as well, because again, everything is energy, and emotions and thinking are more subtle forms of energy than your physical body, but they are one and the same, believe it or not. If you have a habit of thinking a certain way, feeling a certain way, this creates a pattern which is sending a signal to your physical body, literally sending a neon sign. And emotions, we know from science, they release chemicals. Your body's a pharmacy. And they release chemicals which are affecting your organs, your immune system, your nervous system, everything about your health, your energy level. So if you have a lot of critical thinking, if you've got those shoulds going on all day, if you're going around evaluating, interpreting, deciding nobody's doing it right, and then you're feeling that frustration, that pent up energy, right? It's going to have an effect. And I've worked with a lot of people with physical symptoms for a long time. Pain is my thing. And what I've found in every case is it's usually related to anger. inflammation is anger. You're inflamed. You're feeling inflamed. And you do it long enough, the body will tell you that because you're not really learning to release it. You're just trying to get your way. And it doesn't work. So the body, the joints in particular, the hips in particular, it's interesting. The hips are the largest joint in the body, and they often are storing up all this anger, which is why when you exercise physically or you do something like yoga or Tai Chi, you may begin to notice that these emotions start to move. You feel lighter, but it's not just because of the physical exercise. You're releasing the cellular memory of these emotions. But back to the original questions that came in, well, somebody asked about eczema and somebody else asked about joint pain and inflammation and headaches. The answer is yes, 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 and yes. They're all related to physical pain. Underlying is always some kind of emotional pain. And your emotions are linked to your thoughts. And some people are thinkers and they go right to the overthinking. But some people are just emotional and they feel, and they're not aware of the thoughts that are connected to their emotions. And some people are just very aware of their body. They're very kinesthetic. So they feel their body, but they have no clue that it's actually related always to your thoughts and your emotions. We are not separate. We are a body, mind, spirit complex, works together like a glove, like a puzzle. So the short answer is yes. I'm going to do a whole other call, another live session on one of these Wednesdays coming soon about pain and physical pain and how to get rid of it and what that's all about, the hidden reasons. But Sharon, do you want to add to that in any way or comment further about the physicality or anything else about that?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. You are the master of this, and it was well said. And we do know that you can almost experience some immediate relief of an emotional state, actually, when you really kind of understand, what is being triggered inside of you, actually. So I think you can definitely see that connection there.
Yeah. I had a client once who, God, imagine this, for 9 months, she had nonstop vomiting. And she went to every specialist under the sun, and they said it's nothing showing up on a medical test. And she had stomach aches no matter what she ate or didn't eat. And she had a home in 2 states, but she couldn't travel because she had to be near the bathroom 24/7. And this went on and on. It was ruining her marriage. She couldn't work out at the gym. She couldn't go to her friends or anything. So we had a conversation. We worked virtually and we had a conversation, and we found right away that there was hurt and emotional pain that she had not acknowledged, didn't know it was even there, that was buried. And it was literally like she was vomiting these emotions up because it was so full and she had been stuffing it. I had the experience in yoga one day. I was in my yoga class. I thought I was going to throw up. I went into the ladies' room and I leaned over the sink, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, right, I burst out crying. And I went, oh my God, this is a big ball of emotion in me. I bawled my eyes out for about 2 minutes. I was done. I went back and I finished the yoga class. That client, after we worked together, she never threw up again, was done. And that was less than an hour of time after 9 months of every test. They wanted to do surgery and cut out her organs.
Oh, that's horrible.
What was wrong? And it was emotions.
Oh, it's so important, the work that you do. And what's interesting about it is that you're saying, we have this disconnect, but, in our natural language or our intuitive understanding is not so disconnected. Like, even if I just take this client that I was just telling you about, this woman leader, when we were talking, she would say, I'll well up, in my eyes, or in that city, I'm in a meeting and my boss taking credit for my work. She said, I'll get a pit in my stomach, so she, and, so she had the physical physical feelings. And as we were talking, you know, of course, in the magic bullet exercise, she came to understand what it was traceable to, you know, in her, in terms of, you know, this feeling, this longstanding feeling that she had about herself, and how it made her feel caught between sort of wanting to speak up and defend herself, but growing up in a family where you were told to keep your mouth shut and life is unfair and just sort of take it. So it's almost like intuitively she was able to cross, you know, between the feeling and the emotion. And then, you know, from the work that we did together, she's like, you know, I'm calmer. So a physical feeling, I'm just calm now. I'm focused in my work. I'm speaking up and, you know, stepping up. I feel at peace. So you could see that people are talking about both a physical sensation and a kind of a work related and an emotional, like we intuitively know across these things, but we may not connect the dots.
We do. I love that. I love every word of that. And, you know, what's still so mind-boggling to me is how easy it is for people to say, to clearly connect to that emotional aspect and that intuitive aspect, but they, to the intuitive emotional, they will act as if that has less value, or they'll doubt themselves about it, or they won't recognize that it's really giving them a message. And they'll go straight to like getting a physical test done when they have their own answers. They're telling you their own answers, but they minimize that as if it's not as important as some kind of, you know, physical test. And again, you know, this is my opinion, and I am out of the box in my thinking compared to the rest of the world, but I know that you agree that we're so interconnected. You can't separate the emotions and the thinking from the body. And so again, you work with very high level, brilliant people who are leading sometimes huge corporations, huge organizations, and you're helping them feel seen and heard and take their power back and feel confident and comfortable in a situation where it's always stressful. Always. Yeah. But you're teaching them still that their intuition, their emotions are just as valuable as saying the right thing or looking the part or being smart enough, right? That you're showing them that we're in an integrated whole, and
that's where your power comes from inside, of course. And yes, it's not about stress management, it's about self-management. But you know, whether you lead a team, whether you're a business owner, or whether you're just important in a household, you know, or in a relationship to other people, you know, what we're talking about here, an implication of it is that in this web you're talking about is that we affect one another on a team, right? And if you have, you know, so people are going to be going back to work, you know, soon, or whether it's, you know, people in your household, emotions are contagious in this way, right? And we all know if someone else is in a foul mood, that's like, you're like trying to keep your head to your, you know what I mean? Like to yourself. I mean, it affects others, and the leader creates the weather on the team. So it does behoove you as your people, or maybe you're starting to think about people coming back, and you know they're going to be anxious, you know they're going to be stressed, you know that they're going to be have experienced grief, or you know people in your household are feeling angry, you know, and resentful. And it is an opportunity, again, to check in with people, in the messaging that you have as a leader anywhere in your life or your community, to share authentically, like Deborah's, you know, modeling here, you know, about your own experiences, to kind of normalize in your language. I imagine, you know, some of us might be feeling this, or some of us might be feeling this, and it's all okay. And, you know, I'm here to check in with you. And even, you know, here are some resources. Here's a live you could listen to between Dr. Sharon and Deborah, you know what I mean? Or whatever, just to help you, give you some ideas about what can be helpful to you. And I think if you can make it okay and model it, or talk about the things that you've done, you know, to try to be in touch with your emotions and move them through, or to be, you know, really accurate in the way that you understand and interpret what's going on, so that you're not, you know, kind of seeing things through your own filters, because this happens in the workplace all the time, right? Is people are blaming other people, when in fact, if you realize that actually maybe that was my own sensitivity, your response toward the other person would probably be way more collaborative, and the tone much more neutral, than you know, and these things just accumulate, and then you know, there's kind of bad blood between between people, and it's, and the anxiety levels rise, and all of this are things that are more within our control than we think. And I think it's time now for all of us to say, you know what I mean? That this is important. This is going to affect my experience and that of my team or people in my household. And I'm going to do something about this for myself and for everyone around me.
I love that. So I'm going to give a tip here that it's running through my mind, and then there's a couple interesting questions in the Q&A, and then hang on here. So I love that you just talked about blame and brought up the blame word, because the blame game will absolutely keep you stuck. Absolutely. Every time it's going to be a dead end road. And boy, was I stuck there for a long time. So the blame game is your indicator that you're giving your power away, expecting someone else to change, and that your happiness, your peace, your whatever is dependent on someone outside of yourself. But that's never the case. So, but it is true they affect you. Of course it's true. But to blame and say, well, I can't be at peace, or I can't feel the love again, I can't feel good about myself until they change, you'll be putting your head through a brick wall till it will be like, I love, what does the Dalai Lama say? You'll be stuck in your anger, drinking poison, hoping the other person will die. Doesn't work that way, So wait, there's a really interesting question in the chat here saying, what is the magic bullet? So what's the magic bullet? And someone else is asking, why are arguments and events that happened years ago popping into my head right now? So they're popping in your head right now because conversations like this will actually acknowledge that this is okay to talk about. You've been hiding something from yourself. It needs to come up and be in your awareness. This is great. It's absolutely great. And one of the things you can do is make a list, literally go back and look at your life and write down, who am I still angry at? Who am I still resentful? Where am I resentful, angry, hurt? And don't think it just magically is like a magic bullet is going to just go away on its own. There's work we have to do. And one of the things is to learn from these experiences in order to take our power back. So the gentleman that asked what's the magic bullet, Sharon, I find people are always looking for a magic bullet, and they want the pill or the whatever to just take everything, the magic wand, and make everything go away. And although, yes, and well, and most of my audience knows well, that I do high-speed healing, energy healing, which is a very profound method, and many people have a lot of dramatic change really quickly. But that isn't even a magic bullet, because if you go back to your old habits and patterns and ways of behaving, you will bring back your pain because you are contributing to it. And until we take responsibility for our part, going back to what Sharon said earlier, then all I find is that even if I energetically can clear your field and you just feel amazing and blissful, you still have the ability to bring every damn thing that you hated and wanted gone right back into your experience. So do you want to say anything to that, Sharon, before we?
Sure. Well, I think it's very important that you do high-speed healing in order to clear your field in a way that is kind of thorough and systematic in the way that you do it, even though you can do it quickly. And in terms of the magic bullet, the so-called magic bullets, and the technical name, it's my affectionate name, and it sort of seems to describe the results. It's an exercise that I developed, like I said, through my research at Harvard Medical School, and it just helps to kind of trace that negative voice or those kind of reactive behaviors or addictive behaviors to their origin, literally like kind of when these parts of you developed, and we reprogram them, and we help you to develop a better relationship with these parts. So it's kind of like, do I really need you to come out right now? If so, let's talk about what the conditions are under which, like, it's got a better way of, kind of knowing when I need you and when I got this, you know what I mean? And then for the parts of you that are kind of frozen in time and are very feeling full and seem to be kind of lurking under the surface as that kindling waiting, you know what I mean, to be triggered in some way. We really de-intensify them. We help you develop a very soothing kind of healing relationship toward those parts. And, what I hear from people, I mean, we study this, and 96% of the time people say, I just never go there again. I just feel free. I just feel like sky's the limit. I feel like I have a new lease on life. So that's why I call it the magic bullet, because I think when you go to the root cause, as Debora and I, try to do, is that then you can really feel so much more in control and freedom. Of that emotional freedom. So, and, for those of you who are interested in the kind of work that I might do, if you want to take yourself, to the next level, get promoted or be more inspiring or influential or deal with difficult people and have influence over them in the workplace, or if you're a business owner and trying to create optimism and, and focus on your team, these kinds of things, you can reach out to me. I think that Debora's going to follow up with a URL, but if I could maybe just give it here. Because I put together
and give the link for your book, the chapter from your book, and the other tools that you're going to share. I'm going to post that in the comments, and I'm also going to send it to you in an email tomorrow with the recording as well. So
that's awesome. So I'm giving you a link here. It's called Success Under Stress book. That's based on success under stress, powerful tools for staying calm, confident, and productive when the pressure's on. And there's 5 tools that I included where I'm teaching you to instantly calm down from anger, how to clear your mind kind of instantly when you're in an emotional swirl, how to find that kind of mental calm in the middle of when you're, kind of like overwhelmed in your day, and how to keep fear and anxiety at bay from you. So that's all in the successunderstressbook.com. And then, once you have my contact information there, I also just said, if you're facing some of these situations and think that I could be helpful in coaching you or doing some sort of virtual training for your team, then I'd be delighted. And I'm gonna offer for 10 people to just, like, in the spirit of generosity, like, Debora does, to have a brief coaching consultation with you and see how we might be able to make a plan together for you.
Great. And I just put the link on Facebook as well, everybody. So if you're on Facebook, you will find that there. And I want to take everybody through in just a moment a guided meditation, high-speed healing experience, so that
Yay!
Yeah, right? So, we've got to combine the talking and the non-talking, the left and the right side of the brain, right? But
I'm so excited.
I wanted to just look at my list here and make sure I've covered kind of the key things that people wrote in. Is there any other, what would be one, if you had to just give the number one tip that you would want to leave people with, Sharon, for how not to lose your cool when you're, you really want to be your best self, but somebody's really pissing you off? What's your tip?
Well, I'll say 2 things about that. One thing to think about is that I try to do in that situation is I try to kind of think about the future, like what is the outcome that I want? Because, I know if I lose it with this person, then it's not going to lead to the outcome. It feels like it in the moment, like it's just like, I just need to get it off my chest, but it really is not going to lead to the outcome that I want in that relationship. And then it's just going to be more of a hassle to kind of deal with it. And I'm going to be up all night with my regret and all of that. So been there, so that's really, one thing that I try to do, in the moment. Or another thing that I do, sometimes, I'm just an emotional person. I come from ancestry where we're high amplitude, we're emotional. Okay.
So close. Yeah. She gets it.
So, so sometimes I'll just sort of say to the person, okay, I'm totally pissed off. This is not you. I just need to get it out. Like, I'll keep in good connection with that person. Like, I'll like let them know, you know what I mean? And, you know, like, I'm good with you, but like, I need to do this. And then I'll come back and I'll do, you know, whatever. So I think you hear the intentionality in all the things that I'm talking about here. And really that comes from, you know, if you can remember only one thing, always, always, always just be impeccable for your 50%. That's what helps you to be intentional.
And to just piggyback on that. So what I find is the shortcut is, instead of going to statements that start with the word you did, you are, you should, I go bring it back to me and look at I feel statements. And that keeps me from blaming, from attacking, accusing. It just keeps me on my side of the fence. And no one can fault you for how you feel. Your feelings are your feelings. But that's, you know, but if I start blowing up on someone else and name calling and all of this, that's where it, you know, spirals down very quickly. Hey, I just discovered nobody in the group on Zoom can see the link. So I'm going to give you the.
I just put it in there now. successunderstressbook.com to all attendees. They can't see it. Okay.
No, they can't see it. So I'm going to say it to you guys. Write down this link. And I'm going to email it to you tomorrow as well.
Okay.
But www.successunderstressbook.com. And that's how you will get Sharon's gift. And you really want it. It's an amazing book and amazing tools that she's giving away for free. And I'm sorry, some people are saying they can see it, and some people.
I was able to put it in after they notified me that they couldn't see it. Yeah.
But why couldn't they? Well, whatever.
Okay. It was only to the panelists, but now all the attendees can see it.
Oh, got it. Okay. It was the way it was put in. Got it. Okay. So yeah, successunderstressbook.com. And all right. I think it's time. Wow.
Bring on that healing, Deborah. That's so.
Time goes so fast. So, okay. Everybody, as long as you are in a safe place, you're not driving, you're not cooking, you're not chopping, you're not raking, you've got to be in a safe place, sitting or preferably lying down. Find your spot, because I'm going to take us through a short guided meditation and bring on the bliss, all right, and release the cranky. So find yourself lying down and close your beautiful eyes, or if you're sitting or if you're in a wheelchair, it doesn't matter. Just get as comfortable as you can be and close your eyes and gently notice your breathing. Take your attention to your breath and just begin to notice the breath coming in and going out, and start to soften the muscles of your body and let your body begin to melt like butter on a hot summer day. Just let your body melt down into the cushions beneath you. And allow yourself to notice what you hear, what you see, what you feel, what you sense. It's all okay. Allow yourself to just notice now. Notice your body. Notice the air around your face. Notice the sound of your breath as it comes in through your nose. And I'd like you to do a little experiment. And I'd like you to go inside yourself, into the inner world within you that only you will know. And I'd like you to scan your body and notice where there is some dis-ease, some discomfort. Maybe it's strong, maybe the anger, the resentment. Where do you feel it? I want you to go right to the part of your body that's talking to you, that hurts, where there's emotion. And allow yourself to feel it and ask it to come up. if that energy, emotion, feeling, pain, if it had a color, what color would it be? If there was an image you could draw that represented that feeling, that anger, that resentment, whatever it is you're noticing that's uncomfortable, what would you draw? How would you describe that in an image? Notice it, sense it, feel it. Maybe it has sound or texture. I want you to really be with it rather than ignoring it. And if that feeling sensation, if that anger, that resentment, that pain, if it had a voice, what would it say? And I want you to give it a voice and allow this to speak. The first words that come out of your mouth are usually the most accurate. Don't think about it, just say it. What is it trying to tell you? What does the feeling in your body, what is it trying to tell you? Ask it. Listen deeply. Acknowledge it. In fact, I want you to say thank you. Thank you to the pain. Thank you to the anger. Thank you to the resentment. And listen to what it's trying to tell you. I'm going to take a moment here in complete silence. Allow the feelings to come up. As you go back into your beautiful body now, notice what's different. Notice what's changing. And I'd like you to take your attention to your heart area and just put all of your awareness on the center of your chest. And I'd like you to think about someone or something that you love. Someone, some place, some experience that you felt love. That you felt love towards others, that you felt love towards yourself, that you felt you were receiving love, a place you loved being, anything that's connected to the feeling that you would call love. And I'd like you to feel that feeling and allow it to grow in your heart area. And if that feeling had a color, what color would that be? What is your color of love? Allow that color to expand, increase, activate, build, and grow inside you. And open the doorway right in the center of your heart, in the center of your chest. Open the door and allow that love inside you to begin to flow outward all around you, filling the space around you. And think of someone that you would like to send it to. And send that love out to someone in need, someone that you love, someone that you want to connect with. It could be many people. It could be everyone on our planet. There's no limit to who you can send it to. Allow that feeling, that color of love to flow out. Notice how good it feels to let it flow. And now turn your palms up in a gesture of receiving. And just take another deep breath and breathe in all the love that the universe has for you. Breathe it back in. Recognize that every breath you take is a sign that the universe supports you. There's an infinite supply, that breathing itself is love. And every breath you take is an indicator of how beautiful and precious and loved that you are. Breathe in that love right now. And remember that no matter who or what has hurt you in the past, that love is the force that heals all. That you can heal. Nothing stands in your way. You are not blocked. You are not defective. You are perfect, whole, and complete. A beautiful, precious being of love and light and spiritual goodness, energy. And silently to yourself or out loud, say the words, I am enough. I am enough, just the way I am. I'm open to receiving all the love that the universe has for me right now. And place your hands on your heart and give the gift to yourself. Take a moment right now and all the love that you would give someone that you just adored. I want you to give that to yourself. Acknowledge yourself right now. Now take a breath in and a breath out. And another breath in and a breath out. And begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes and find yourself becoming more alert and more awake, more aware. And come all the way back now, wide awake, alert, refreshed and relaxed. Know that you can return here anytime you wish to that place, that center inside you of love. Come all the way back with us now and open your beautiful eyes. So, Sharon, I could talk to you forever, and really this could go on for hours. There's so many things I feel like we didn't get a chance. We'll have to do this again soon.
Great.
And thank you for being here from the bottom of my heart. I love you so much. You are such an amazing friend and healer and teacher and speaker, and just you are you model what leadership is. And for all of my friends here on Facebook or Zoom or Instagram, wherever you're watching me, YouTube, I want you to get to know Sharon. This is someone you want to know. And grab her gift at successunderstressbook.com. Reach out to her. She's an amazing coach. If you have any questions for us, either one, you can email me. You can post on any of my pages or whatever. We will get back to you and answer those questions. And tomorrow I'll be sending out the recorded replay of this so you can hear it again. You'll probably notice things you didn't hear today if you listen.
Send it to people who you think would benefit from listening to it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thank
And
you so much. It's such an honor. You're my teacher. Thank you for that healing. I'm so blessed. Thank you so much.
thank you. Oh God, thanks everybody for being here. Almost everybody is still on the call. So thank you all so much for your participation. Edward says, well done, you spoke the same language I do. I love it, yes. I think that, you know, there's definitely resonance in our tribe here, and we're all here for a reason, because we get each other. So thank you. Oh, Carrie, thanks for being here. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And everybody, really, we value you so much. And thank you for allowing us to share our gifts with you and for relating and resonating with our message and our passion. You know, we're living in a very special time, and it's just so awesome to connect to our tribe. So you're a valuable member of our communities, and we love you. And with that, I hate to go, but I'm going to say good night. Sleep tight, everybody, or good morning if you're in another part of the world. And Sharon, again, thanks so much for being here, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, everyone. Bye now.
Bye, everyone.